Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And away we finally go. Chip Scoggins, Judd Zulgad. It's game week. It's Purple Access. It's everything we could possibly want. My gosh, it's been, well, first of all, it's a month plus of training camp, preseason games, and then it's a week and a half off or 2 weeks off?
2 weeks.
Before we get the Bears and Vikings, which we will get on Monday night. It's the final game of week one. All right. What are your feelings as we now sort of have at least a little bit of a feel for this team, which will morph and change? What are your feelings about the Vikings going into this game against the Bears?
Maybe I say this every year, Judd, and I probably do, but can you remember being more excited for an opener than this one with all the newness, or not new, but JJ? I mean, I guess anytime you have a quarterback starting for the first time, a young quarterback, you're going to have this anticipation. And I think you couple that with coming off of 14 wins, what they did in the offseason in terms of the moves they made, the money they spent, the way this team has been constructed. There's just a ton of anticipation, and feel like and it's like this every year, I know, but it's like this crescendo, and it's like it's coming. You talk about it through OTAs, minicamp, summer, training camp. And to finally get here, I'm just super excited, but really it starts with the quarterback, obviously.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's funny because it does, like, by the time training camp is done and then you go through the final cuts and then there is an inevitable wait. It depends on the amount of days. There's always an excitement to get going. But yeah, this is one of my most anticipated seasons because of the quarterback, because of all the free agent additions, because of the fact that they're geared to win right now. Like, this is not, we've talked about this for months now. So I feel it's different. Like, I was trying to think back, what are the seasons where I had the most, not just eagerness to get going, but anticipation? And I was thinking, 2009, but that was once Favre arrived. Yeah. Like, it took until Favre arrived to be like, because I think that was a training camp in Mankato where before Favre got there, I was talking to John Clayton, who, God rest his soul, great guy, from ESPN, and he's like, this is a really good team. And this is before Favre. And I'm like, yeah, I guess, but what are they going to do at quarterback? And silly as it might sound, I was probably pretty excited for 2018, right? Kirk was here. It was new.
That was on my mind. I felt this way with Kirk, too. I think it's anytime you have a new quarterback, Judd.
Sure.
But remember, that was a team coming off the NFC Championship game. Yep. That was a team that was built to win right now. You added a veteran quarterback, and we didn't, we thought this might be the piece, right? This might, they finally got a quarterback in here who has experience. And so I think I go back to the Cousins' first year in terms of just anticipate. But we haven't seen JJ, and he's the first top 10 quarterback pick they've had. And so you add that layer in there, and this was a better team on paper. I mean, this is just the way it's constructed. It's a better team than they were last year, I think. And so I want to see how it all looks, particularly, obviously, the quarterback, but particularly along both lines. Like, do those additions make a pretty dramatic difference in terms of style of play and what those defensive guys do in the middle? Do they, are they wreckers in there? The offensive line, are they able to run the ball more? Are they physical, that type of stuff? So, yeah, I'm super excited. And I get, and just being around town and talking to people, I think this fan base is the same way. I mean, you get the sense that they're just like this really high-level anticipation and real high level of optimism, I think. You don't hear a lot of pessimism locally.
It's funny how there is I feel like this is one of the most polar opposite feelings nationally.
Yes.
And locally, right?
Yeah,
because nationally it's like, oh, they're young quarterback, and I don't know if they're being slept on or they're just being, or the national pundits are being realistic, but there is, I wouldn't say a complete lack of excitement, but there's certainly not an anticipation that this is a special team. And then to your point, locally, I mean, heck, I think from us who cover the team, I think there's far more of an anticipation of no, that, like they did a lot of things. This team is supposed to win right now, and it's very, very opposite in my opinion.
Yeah, Seifert posted something from I think it's Bill Barnwell yesterday or the other day about his predictions, and his theory was young quarterback, unproven, don't really know yet, but also that there might be a course correction with the one-score games and that you can't continue to win those at a high rate, that, over time I think those maybe even out. Could be true, on the one-score games. I mean, O'Connell's, 2 of the years they were really good on them, those one-score games. And so I don't know if there's a formula to those, Judd, because that's what the NFL set up for, that they typically even out over time. They talk about winning in the margins and finding ways to, maximize those so they are putting themselves in position to win these one-score games. Because it's, they're not an outlier in terms of playing a lot of one-score games. This is just what the NFL is, and you got to figure out how to win. That's what separates, right? That's what separates good seasons from average seasons from bad season. It's do you 100%. Figure out how to win those? And O'Connell's got a pretty good touch in those. So, I'm super excited for Monday night. Curious to see JJ's emotions. First start, hometown. I got to imagine a lot of things are going to be swirling in his body and mind, and so I'm curious to see. I got to imagine O'Connell's anticipating it too, so be curious to see his early scheme, the scripted plays to try to get him comfortable, get him into the game, get him settled down.
I'm also super curious to see O'Connell's non-scripted plays once the game starts with a different philosophy that they clearly have from a personnel standpoint. Like that's one of the things that I keep coming back to is how is Kevin O'Connell going to call games once the script is done? Because, that I think that's the hardest place for a play caller to not talk about reversing course, but actually do it, right?
Yeah.
So what is he going to do when he usually would have passed the ball, but now he should run the ball? And you got Justin Jefferson, but you got Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. I think I almost feel like it's been undersold O'Connell in game here. And what he's going to do, because, he will play at the end of the day a huge role in whether McCarthy is successful or not.
Yeah, and obviously his DNA is vertical, push the game, pass first, trust the quarterback, let it fly. When Kirk went down, it was a revolving door at quarterback. He didn't really change his philosophy. He didn't say, okay, we're going in the shell, we're going to run. No, it's like we're throwing the ball down the field. So now those teams weren't built to run the ball, whereas I think this team is. And so, fundamentally they're different and there should be that trust, but does O'Connell change his DNA along with that and his play calling along with that? I'm curious to see how he evolves, right? Does he trust it more? Does he, does he rely on the run game more? Because we just know he values, big shots down the field, the vertical passing game. And so I'm curious about that. I'm curious about really play design using McCarthy's mobility. How does that factor into his scheme? Do we see some design things to really get him on the move, get him outside the pocket, those type things? I'm curious to see that. I'm curious to see the carry breakdown between Jones and Mason. Is it 50-50, 60-40? I'm just curious to see how he uses those two backs. Obviously I think we'll see Mason more in short yardage, those type things, but that's not to say, Aaron Jones can't be in there in that too. So I used this word last week when I was covering the Gophers game, because there's so many news, like there's an unveiling. I feel like there's an unveiling coming with the Vikings too, because not just with JJ, but like this offense with a new quarterback and with a running game that should be more effective.
I think that's very, very fair. And yeah, and just, I guess also fourth quarter, you're down by, I don't know, 7.
Yeah.
You're down by 3. Heck, you're up by 7. Do you call for a pass play? Do you run the ball and eat clock? I do think one of the most important things, or among them, is this. I think with this defense, which I expect to be good, but it's not a young defense, I think keeping them off the field is going to be imperative. So I think there's going to be certain situations where you probably want to pass, and it would make sense to pass, where you should run just to eat clock up too, because there's nothing like you're up by, take your pick, you're up by a touchdown, and you're like, okay, let's go up by 2 touchdowns, and you pass the ball, and it's fourth quarter, and the ball, falls to the turf, and the clock stops, and so like these are other things about how much are you willing to marry the offense to the defense, because the one thing that I think could catch up to this defense is snaps, playing time. A lot of those guys, Hargrave, Allen, Harrison Smith, go down that list, are probably best kept off the field as much as possible just to keep them fresh.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's been in the calculus with when KO and Brian Flores talked throughout the, just seems like they have such a good marriage about what they each are doing and how it meshes, So, and I'm curious to see, does that defense continue to create turnovers at the rate that they did? That was something that they really excelled at last year, and I think in theory they should be, because I think turnovers are tricky because a lot of factors go into them. Sometimes luck, but I do think it's a combination of scheme and putting pressure and having rushers that can get there. And your pass rush should be better now because you're better from the inside. And I think Dallas Turner is going to be better. I mean, we know Grenard and Van Ginkel are going to create, those opportunities. So I as much as you can think that you're going to be able to turnovers, create them, I think this group will continue to be able to do it because I think the ingredients are there for it.
Yeah, and they're somewhat random. Like
yeah.
But I think I think defensively, if you make turnover worthy plays, if that makes sense,
yes,
that's your best bet. And yes, I'm fascinated to see for the first time in a long time, and it's funny because for a long time this was not a problem for this team. The Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, and a pretty good rotation of guys.
Yeah.
What that pressure from the inside is like, because I mean we have seen. In Chipper, the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of opponents, bowl Garrett Bradbury over, but then the Vikings don't have a comeback for that.
Yep.
So to turnovers as well, I think the one place where you can control them a lot is yourself offensively. Like that's my thing is if you remember the bad start with Kirk, and they came back, and then he got hurt in Green Bay was based largely on turnovers. I mean, some just terrible turnovers, which were not random. They were your fault. Yeah. So like, I think if the defense makes turnover worthy plays, whether they get them or not, you're putting yourself in a good position. But I think much more importantly is you need to hang on to the football. And, O'Connell's one year where it was a problem was a year where they started off and they were very, very undisciplined. Yeah.
And I'll be curious to see, because it's probably going to happen, right? JJ's going to have a high throw, probably. He's going to overthrow. I mean, there's going to be first-time quarterback. There's going to be turnovers. I'm curious to see like what O'Connell's response will be that, and then can the defense pick it up? Right? Can you prevent that from becoming points? So those things have to work in marriage. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see. I don't think, based on just what we've seen, it has to play out in the game. I don't think JJ will get rattled by a mistake. Do you? I mean, he doesn't seem like he has that makeup to me. Now, he has to show it in the game, but like if he throws a bad pick, I don't think it'll make him tentative or, distracted or whatever. I think he's got a pretty good sense about moving on. But I'll be curious to see like kind of how O'Connell handles those moments too.
On that point, I am so curious now because it's been a year we didn't see him play, and we got the practices and the preseason games to go off of, but they don't mean a whole lot right now. And so I don't know. I don't think so. I think his past indicates he won't. But it's National Football League now. And
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to open on the biggest stage as far as the prime time game in his home state, which you did a great piece on, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, I don't think he'll freak out, but in this particular game, I'm not quite sure. It goes back to what you said. I am just like, to me, this is going to be this game will not define anyone or anything, but it will be a great opening night, like an opening act. Like, I see this as like the opening night of a play. Is it good? Yeah. Is it not good? Like, I just, and I, when it comes to the quarterback, just fully acknowledging I've got theories, but I don't have a definite great feel yet.
Yeah, well, I know one thing. We're going to overreact to whatever it is. Either way, it's part of
Arch Manning, baby. Arch Manning's the worst. He's Heisman Trophy. No, wait, he's the worst quarterback. He's not even worthy of that name. His name's Arch Smith from now on.
He's got to change his name. You're right about like the theories we have. There's no like real repercussions if you throw a pick in practice. Okay, you move on to the next drill. So there's repercussions if it puts your team in a bad spot in the game. So, but I do think there is just a confidence about JJ that, and I do like the fact that he's played in huge games, man. He played at Michigan, played in national championship games. So, I mean, granted, this is a totally different thing, but it's like he's played in the highest pressure environment that you can as a college quarterback. I mean, that has to account for something, right? I mean, it's not like, no offense, they were just playing in average bowls or whatever, or, he played in Ohio State games, he played in Penn State games, he played in, so I think that has helped that confidence and helped him understand how to manage emotions in those moments, probably,
Well, and he's done a lot of that with his meditation through the years, yeah. his battle back at IMG during COVID with depression and things like that. So yeah, no, I am far more optimistic than I am pessimistic, but I also we've all covered this team long enough to know that we can get over our skis at times, and so there are things I'm just curious to see when you bring it to to a Monday night. Your first pro game, and yes, we will overreact unnecessarily. Unfortunately, or fortunately, they play once a week, so it's hard not to. But all of that being said, I think we'll get a definite start of a feel for him, and I'll go back to it. I think the relationship between O'Connell and McCarthy in game is going to be so important, and that's not all McCarthy. Like that's going to be on O'Connell, and as far as what he's done and what he should do now and the temptation to do different things. And you know what, quite frankly, if you talk about pressure on JJ, he's been very successful, but O'Connell has that too. 2 playoff appearances, two or three seasons, great years, no playoff wins. Now this is his guy too. Like this is not, I'm trying to fix Sam Darnold. If I don't fix him, it's only going to be a year or so, or, if JJ doesn't get hurt, it's going to be 6 games. So there's a lot of very interesting, I don't know if it's sneaky, but interesting pressure here on different people. Yeah,
I mean, for O'Connell and Kwesi, they've proven they can win big in the regular season. Now they need to take that next step, right? They need to win in the postseason, and hence what they did in the offseason in terms of the trenches, and what they said was you have to be able to win multiple ways in the postseason. So it's on their mind, it is, and they need to take that next step. And you're right, this is a large part of why O'Connell was hired, because this franchise wanted to solve the quarterback conundrum that's been there forever, and this is his guy, it's his handpicked guy, and so a lot riding on this season, which is interesting because it's like, okay, first-year quarterback, you got a long runway here. This runway they purposely built this runway for a quick takeoff is what they did,
Yeah, it's John Wayne, man. You got to lift that plane right up. You got no room, no wiggle room. You got to get that plane. You go like, woo-boo, right in the air.
That's a veteran traveler there from the Wild Beat.
I remember that. Wow.
I know. So, yeah, I'm just you're right. There's a lot of fascinating kind of storylines. This is not your typical, just like, we're kind of, it's another NFL. No, there's a lot going on, a lot of things to see and learn and dissect, and I'm just happy, man. It's you know, like you said, you kind of had this build up, and we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. Now it's going to be fun to kind of see what it all looks like.
So you had a column that I think appeared in the print edition yesterday about
Sunday.
JJ. Oh, Sunday.
Yeah, we're a new.
I can't keep track now. I saw it. I read it. I saw it. I thought it was in the paper. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, online yesterday, in the paper on Sunday. Can't keep track of this. You talked to JJ McCarthy's dad about his, well, I guess experiences from birth on. And the fact that his first game was a game, I don't know, did I cover the game with you in 2007, or was I with Seifert?
You actually was there. I went back and looked at, so JJ obviously is from Chicago. His dad grew up Bears fans going to game, but he took him to his first game in 2003 or 2007 when he was 4 years old. And I was there because I was still that was my last year on the Gopher beat.
Okay.
And they had either played Northwestern or Purdue the day before. So I stuck around and wrote sidebars with you and Seifert.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I remember being there, I was like, man. As I was talking to his dad, I was like, I was there because that was the Peterson game, right?
Yeah,
and it was Peterson.
Why was I there?
Yeah, well, I knew I was there, and then I went back and looked. I think it was they played Northwestern, so I just
Okay.
But yeah, Adrian Peterson, 224 yards, franchise record, 3 touchdowns. And you remember, he had like long kickoff returns. He had set up the long well field goal with the long kickoff return.
They stuck him back there. They're like, screw it. He's
nobody can stop him. Yeah,
no, they couldn't.
And so they won a long 55-yarder, which back then was like that was Longwell's longest field goal, and 55-yarder. It was like a long
type of field goal that you could have attempted in 2009 against the Saints.
That's right.
But I digress.
But you had to throw that in. Yeah,
I did. Sorry.
So, that was his first game, and think about full circle. You go from that your first game and going to. He grew up going to Soldier Field, and even had the Urlacher jersey on. His dad told me he loved Urlacher, obviously, but Matt Forte and Johnny Knox. Like,
yeah, that's a bizarre.
It's just a random.
Urlacher's not bizarre, but the other two, Matt. I mean, Forte.
Yeah.
I barely remember Johnny Knox.
I just looked it up. I think he played here 3 years. It was like Johnny Knox, huh? But who knows? I mean, I'm sure there are kids here that have just like random, whoever Vikings that, but it was interesting. He, clearly JJ, when he met with the media on Wednesday, knew those questions were coming, because he said home is Minnesota now, and this is a business trip, and he wasn't going to walk down that narrative lane with reporters, I don't think so. But obviously it's going to be a huge moment for him and his family. His dad said they've gotten calls and messages from all over Michigan, fans from their friends. Obviously, all over Chicago, he thought several hundred people that were going to be there that, are coming to support him. And so I imagine, just imagine what that would feel like, Judd. Like, you grow up a Vikings fan, just you live and die it, and, you have a kid, you take him to the Vikings games, and all of a sudden, he gets drafted by the Packers in his first game, against the Vikings.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just not mixed emotions. Obviously, his dad said he was a Bears fan for 55 and a half years. So it stopped, basically. His allegiances changed as soon as the Vikings drafted him. And so, but you could just tell, talking to him, the emotion of having your son start his first NFL game in the stadium where you grew up, taking him to his first game. Just a super cool moment for them.
So there was a cute story, too, that you had from his dad about when JJ was born, and I think he said something along the lines of, this is going to be my little quarterback? Is that the right phrase?
So he actually didn't. JJ shared that. He was on the Rich Eisen podcast after he was drafted. Okay. And he didn't know it until like a few weeks before, and his dad shared it with me, that JJ's dad, Jim, and his mom, Megan, were in the hospital. This was 2003 when he was born, January. His dad had a video camera, and they were going, okay, what should his name be? And, they picked on a name, and he's like, we'll call him JJ. And he said, JJ, he's going to be daddy's little quarterback. And and Megan and mom said, well, what if, and he's like, and if he's not, that's okay, but he's going to be daddy's little quarterback. And think about it, he's like, his dad's like, he just manifests everything in life. And he had already painted his baby room before he came home in Bears colors. So it was blue. It had the trim, had a football theme on it. It's like, so that's why he was bringing him home into. It's like, you're a Bears fan. Day one, you're a Bears fan. Your room is painted blue.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And so, that just speaks to like how much that team means to his family. His dad, Jim's dad, JJ's grandpa, I guess they had a train that went during '85. They took a train. A lot of fans took a train from Chicago down to New Orleans, where the Super Bowl was, a Super Bowl shuffle, when they beat the Patriots. So he was on like the Super Bowl train. They went down there, and it was like this big fan thing. And so that's how big of fans they were. And his dad was a big Walter Payton fan. He was there the day, I think, when Walter broke the rushing record and some playoff games, '85. He loved him. So, so you have that, all those ties, and here comes now all of a sudden, JJ goes to his first game, and the Vikings were the enemy that day. And now, 20 or 17 years, 18 years later, because he was 4, he's 22 now. He's leading the team that, you talk about just a storyline. Like,
and it's a great story too, because like that's a memorable game. Like, that 2007 game, if I'm not mistaken, they were in the midst of, they didn't win a ton in Chicago, right? At that time. Like that's now pretty much gone. Like, I still think about that, but it's not true. It's more of just an assumption now. But I want to say when I was writing off that game, like, that was in the midst of, they hadn't won a ton there. And yeah, Peterson was, as he often was back then, off the charts. Mm-hmm. And I also recall that the turf stunk, but that's Soldier Field.
That's every year. That's every year. Yeah. And I believe, if I remember correct, I think Devin Hester had a pretty big game that day too. I remember it was rainy. I do remember. I'm sure he did
against Chris Cluey, and Childress probably went crazy.
I'll find someone that can.
Brad, what if he can't do it?
That was Reggie Bush.
But it was the same. I mean, Hester was a nightmare.
I know.
I mean, and lots of teams.
For
he was
everybody,
a nightmare for this team.
I know. Yeah. But it was. It's funny. I remember all the Peterson had long touchdown runs. It was like 60, 70. But I specifically remember the long kickoff return to set up that field goal.
Well, yeah, because it was the it's like back in the day. It might have been his rookie season or early in his career when they put Moss on a punt return, and I think he housed it. And it's like, you don't return punts, dude. And he's like, I don't care. I just housed it. So
I'm good. Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as your defensive concerns go, how confident are you going into this game in the cornerback spot? Because it's an interesting one. We talked about it a ton before the preseason or training camp, and then we sort of haven't talked about it as much. And I actually said going into the training camp, I said I'm not as concerned as most. But I also thought Mekhi Blackman would challenge Jeff Okudah, and now he's been traded. And it appears Okudah is going to play the outside corner for sure. I think he's going to get the boundary and nickel. I guess I am very curious here. I also have a feeling that room is not yet shaped as it will be eventually. I'm not saying for Monday. I'm saying eventually. And I guess my question is, do they go get somebody off like the waiver wire eventually? Do they get, Stephon Gilmore off his couch, or do they make a trade at the deadline? Which, by the way, if they're going well and they need a corner, I would not dismiss that.
Yeah, after the roster cut down, I thought for sure they would add a veteran wide receiver, and a corner. Obviously, they did with Adam Thielen coming back, which I think that'll be good for obviously JJ going to his opener to have a veteran that he's thrown to and knows and all that, but. I guess I was a little surprised. I don't know. I guess that one sort of falls under need to see more, need to see in a game to see, like, I guess I'd have some, I don't know if uneasiness is. I'm just curious to see, because it's Okudah. I just want to see, has he found something here, right, that he hasn't been able to find early in his career? And part of that's health, he's been hurt, so, you can't plan for that, but I agree. I think they're probably looking at that as like, let's see how this goes, and do we need to add or not? But I think you just need to see more. You need to see it in the game and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm willing to give them, especially Flores, the benefit of the doubt on Isaiah Rodgers for sure. He might just not have played as much, and clearly Flores likes him and says, no, he can start. And okay, I'll buy that. The Okudah one, I'm a little bit more skeptical on because, as you said too, he has not stayed healthy, and I just don't know. Like, he has just struggled so much. So that's the one that intrigues me. But I would say now, if there is a place where, if they get off to the start that they expect, if there is a trade deadline chip to go get, I'm guessing it's there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing well and they need a corner if it's a splashy move.
Things, financially, I think, right, with their cap situation. So
yeah, it's sort of, well, they got some to work with now, but they're not going to have much to work with in a year. But they'll clean that up.
Yeah, I trust Robert.
They'll clean that up
to figure that out. So yeah, I agree. I think it's just need to see more, and maybe they'll be proven right on Okudah. Maybe he stays healthy, and maybe Flores, his coaching and can finally untap what made this guy a high draft pick. So, but that's that's an area where I think you just need to really see like what it looks like.
What are you leaning towards for a prediction for this one?
I'm picking Vikings, close game. Season prediction, I said 11-6. This is a game I had them winning. I think I'm gonna say like a 4-point win. I don't think it's I don't think either team's gonna, but I think we're gonna see a pretty balanced offense early on. I just think O'Connell's really gonna. I do think they're gonna try to establish that run. I think that'll be something that, particularly not so, obviously with JJ, but with the wide receiver core, until you get Addison back, it may look a little different because I just think Addison's going to add such, explosiveness to it based on what we saw in camp. Because I just thought he was, I thought he was ready to really take a big jump in his career. He just looked dynamite in camp. So I'm going to say a 4-point win, Judd. It may not look aesthetically, perfect. But I think they find a way to get a win there.
I think I have more questions, and it's going to sound weird because this guy actually started for an entire season. I think I have more questions about Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams' relationship than I do about McCarthy and O'Connell, because, Caleb's game doesn't necessarily really go hand in hand with what Ben Johnson wants to do. And I think that's going to take some time. Now, I think McCarthy will as well. But I don't think that the results, I feel like the results with Caleb and Ben Johnson could be, especially against the Flores defense, more disastrous. Yeah. So I actually have more questions about the Bears. So yeah, I'm picking the Vikings win. I'm sure it's close. I'm sure it's, at most a touchdown, but probably 3 points or 4 points, like you said. But yeah, you go back and look at this schedule and the early season, and because I was going through it again, man. Getting off to a good start is imperative. That 4-game stretch coming out of the bye is one brutal. Of the. It's awful. And I'm not complaining. It'll be fun to watch. But it's if you're the Vikings, it's awful. It's if nothing else, it's not just 4 good teams. It's 4 teams that want to physically kick your ass for 4 weeks, including a short week Thursday game going out to Los Angeles.
Yeah, it is as difficult as it gets. So getting off to a good start is imperative. And I agree with you on Caleb Williams. We know he likes to improvise and run around and do those things, but against the Flores defense, you talk about turnover-worthy plays, that seems like that sets up for it. And with Grenard, Van Ginkel, Turner, I just think that they will be able to get enough pressure on him that he's going to make mistakes. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple turnovers that they create off this game.
The thing I like, too, is Ben Johnson. So he's had, I think, O'Connell has 1-5 against him in Detroit when he was OC, and I don't think Flores has beaten him yet as the DC. So, but the one thing that I like, where I think it's an advantage for the Vikings, is this is going to be his first game as a head coach, and O'Connell was talking about it again this week, is like when you're the head coach, you can't just sit back there and call plays. Like you've got to make decisions and go outside your comfort zone, and so one, he's not going to have the personnel right off the bat that he had with Detroit, which is a big key. But 2, he's also going to have to manage the entire game, which, I mean, that's the one thing I've always said. If you're going to call plays, that's an unappreciated and be a coach. So I think Ben Johnson's going to learn that he doesn't have the luxuries that he did when he could just concentrate on calling offensive plays and not give a damn about in that case, Detroit defense.
Well, that's it. You can't just go sit down and show Aaron or Jared Goff the tablet, right? You can't go sit down with Caleb Williams. Like,
you can, but you're gonna miss things.
I mean, and there has to be like some rhythm to learning how to, you're so conditioned to, okay, my series is over. I'm going to go talk to my quarterback. I'm going to go figure this out. You're not watching what the defense is doing probably too often. You're trying to figure out the next series. And so you can't tell me there's not an adjustment period that comes with that.
100%.
I mean, there has to be. I mean, I think every coach would probably tell you. So this will be his first time doing that. So I'd say that might, I don't know if that leads to whatever, but I just think it comes down to it. I think the Vikings are a better team, and even with the, I think there's a definite edge that we felt in camp, particularly from those defensive guys led by Grenard. And with the new guys coming in here, I think there's a confidence about them, and I think they know they need to get off to a good start, both for the schedule, but also to help their young quarterback. So I'm picking a win.
All right. We both are, and we will talk about it next week on Purple Access when we are back on Thursday to discuss what transpired in the Bears game and also the home opener, a Sunday night tilt against the Atlanta Falcons. Chip Scoggins, thank you very much. Check out Chip stuff in the Star Tribune, and we'll see you later.
See you, bro.